Good afternoon, fellow Kenyans. I address you again today because, as you are aware, the entire world is going through an extraordinary emergency. Indeed, the last time the world faced a disease of such rapid and dire impact as coronavirus was over a century ago, when an influenza epidemic claimed tens of millions of lives. Indeed, a few decades prior to that, a terrible sleeping sickness epidemic wrought havoc in our own eastern part of this continent of Africa. And as such, I and the government will do everything in our power to ensure that we as a nation shall not suffer such terrifying outcomes as a result of this current COVID-19. As this pandemic sweeps through the nations of the world, our country, Kenya, has not been spared. And never has the national interest been threatened to this extent in the history of our young nation. Our families, our schools, our way of life, the way we worship, our economy, our businesses, our workers, every single Kenyan stands threatened by this invisible, relentless enemy that is COVID-19. Fellow Kenyans, as of this morning, we have tested a total of about 4,277 persons, and today we have an additional 16 persons turning positive, making our national total 158. In the same breath, we also note with gratitude that we have 4 persons that have fully recovered from this disease. We also, as a nation, pray for the quick recovery of those undergoing treatment, as we condole with the families and friends of the 6 that have regrettably lost their lives to this pandemic. This virus is unforgiving, and its rate of growth, if not arrested, is exponential. Yet because it cannot be smelt, it is an enemy that can easily convince you that life can continue as normal. While the majority of people who get it recover, most without showing severe symptoms, if this disease spreads to larger numbers, it can lead to unprecedented pressure on our medical facilities, which may lead to an equally unprecedented loss of life. Therefore, I will go to any length, any lawful length, to respond to COVID-19. Fellow Kenyans, governments all over the world, including our own, are taking unprecedented steps to arrest the spread of this pandemic and indeed to flatten the curve of its spread. Different measures are being taken across the globe, depending on every country's unique circumstances. But what is clear from experiences around the world is that the pandemic is likely to continue spreading with lethal effect without decisive action. So, fellow Kenyans, there is a choice that we are asked to make as a government and to make as a people. Do we carry on as normal or treat this like an extraordinary emergency, which it is, and fundamentally change the way we act and behave? I believe we must choose the latter, because even as we pray for the best, we must be ready for the worst. It is in moments like this that the character of a people and the destiny of a nation is truly clarified. Fellow Kenyans, today we are being called upon by our children and our children's children to show the greatness in us by how we respond to this virus. If we act, as I believe we should, like the fingers folded into a fist, we can stop the damage that this pandemic can cause to our nation. Our greatness will not be revealed by soldiers in uniform this time. It will show in the sacrifices that we make to protect one another. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, wearing your mask and washing hands does indeed save lives. The bravery and dedication of our medical personnel, should this pandemic continue to escalate, will truly demonstrate the mettle of our nation. And I indeed have faith in Kenyans. I know how we struggle through pain and tears to be there for our families. But now it is our time to turn out for the duration of this global pandemic. We must turn out for our country by taking the following measures, as I have said severally, as simple as they may be, and we must stick to them. We must endeavor to wear masks when we are amongst our people. We must clean our hands with soap for at least 20 seconds and do so several times a day. We must continue to avoid all areas with people who will be closer to you than 1.5 meters. We must, I repeat, heed and comply with government directives. We must take extra care not to expose those who are over 58 years, and also to our brothers and sisters who are suffering from various chronic ailments. So, fellow Kenyans, having received advice from our medical professionals and experts, today we do say that Kenyans should wear masks while in public places. I know that there will be thousands of tailors from all over the country who will also look to make these masks, and we encourage them to do so. The Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Industry and Trade will endeavor to ensure that all these tailors are provided with the right information through the national government administrative officers on the kind of materials required and the proper method of piecing the fabrics together to make the face masks and to ensure that they are effective. Their success, however, will need all of us as individual citizens to comply with the different directives, and we as a people to be united. This virus is in nearly all countries and territories on the globe. This virus does not care about your religion. It does not care about the color of your skin, the tribe you come from, or the size of your wallet. It is not infecting members of one tribe while staying away from another. So therefore, defeating it will require all of us to put aside our usual differences and to face the enemy standing side by side. Our unity is demonstrated and will be demonstrated by each Kenyan going the extra mile to ensure that our personal conduct does not endanger others. It will show in the decisions by business owners to do their utmost to support their employees. Fellow Kenyans, make no mistake, we are at war, and we must be together if we shall win this war. I recognize once again the good work being done by our Ministry of Health, and indeed all government ministries and departments in the current fight. But I believe that we must escalate our response even more in order to safeguard our nation. As you are aware, the spread of COVID-19 is through human contact. On the declaration of the global health emergency, in accordance with the World Health Organization guidelines, we did as a country enhance surveillance at all points of entry into our country to avert contact with the disease. Unfortunately, notwithstanding our interventions that included the closure of Kenyan airspace and mandatory quarantine of all inbound passengers, the few persons who had contracted the disease from abroad transmitted it locally. So therefore, a majority of the persons who have contracted the disease are residents of the Nairobi metropolitan area and the counties of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa. The few confirmed cases outside Nairobi and the counties of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa can be traced to persons who have either traveled from our nation's capital or from those three counties that I have mentioned. In that regard, and in order to halt this worrying trend, the Cabinet Secretary of Health issued declarations under the Public Health Act in which COVID-19 was declared a notifiable disease and a formidable epidemic disease. Therefore, fully conscious that 82% of Kenya's reported cases of COVID-19 have been in respect of residents of the Nairobi metropolitan area, and B, that 14% of Kenya's reported cases of COVID-19 have been in respect of residents of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa, the Cabinet Secretary for Health has further declared the Nairobi metropolitan area and the counties of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa as COVID-19 infected areas. Accordingly, to contain and limit the spread of the disease to other parts of the country, the National Security Council has sanctioned and caused the issuance of the following additional measures. Number one, that there shall be cessation of all movement by road, rail, or air in and out of A, the Nairobi metropolitan area, and B, the counties of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa. Number two, the cessation of movement within the Nairobi metropolitan area shall be for an initial containment period of 21 days with effect from 7 p.m. Monday, the 6th of April, 2020. That is today. And three, the cessation of movement within the counties of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa shall be for an initial containment period of 21 days with effect from 7 p.m. on Wednesday, the 8th of April, 2020. In the intervening period, movement in and out of the coastal strip shall be limited. 4, the Nairobi metropolitan area is designated as follows: the Nairobi City County, part of Kiambu County up to Chania River Bridge, Thika, including Rironi, Dedero, Kiambu Town, part of Machakos County up to Athi River, including Katani, part of Kajiado County, including Kitengela, Kiserian, Ongata Rongai, Ngong Town, and all areas as set out in the order. 5, the counties of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa. 6, any person, passenger carrying bicycles, motorcycles, scooters, automobiles, vehicles, vessels, railway wagons, or aircraft shall not be allowed in and out of the Nairobi metropolitan area and the counties of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa. 7, the movement of food supplies and other cargo will continue as normal during the declared containment period through road, rail, and air. Number 8, any cargo carrying vehicle or vessel shall be assigned a single driver and designated assistants whom in whichever case shall not exceed 3 persons. All such designated persons must be notified in writing by the owner or operator of the said vehicle or vessel with reference to that vehicle or vessel. So all owners and operators of vehicles will be required to notify the authorities of the driver and the said assistance. Number 9, these additional measures do not in any way vary the existing restrictions and measures, including the daily nationwide curfew from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. in the entire territory of the Republic of Kenya. Fellow Kenyans, I issue these enhanced measures well aware that they will complicate and inconvenience many Kenyans. However, by not doing so, this can only lead to even greater suffering for the people of Kenya. I want to take this opportunity to once again thank all Kenyans for their shared understanding, and in the same breath also urge our law enforcement officers and agencies to be mindful and sensitive as they enforce this curfew and the additional measures that we have taken today. However, I must continue to emphasize that we shall remain firm and fair, but we will strictly abide by the dictates of the law. We must together take a stand here before COVID-19 spreads out of control. And fellow Kenyans, we must be ready to go even further if it becomes necessary. As we face this deadly enemy, I want every Kenyan to recognize those who are going to be so crucial to our victory. These include, amongst others, our emergency service providers, our medical officers, our nurses, our doctors, all those who clean and cook and put supplies in our hospitals will face one of the greatest health challenges our country has ever seen. Alongside these great Kenyans, there will be other providers of critical or essential services, our security personnel, our administration officers, our electricity and water sanitation officers, our telephony, banking and retail sector workers, our farmers and food transporters. And indeed today, to these essential service workers, I want to say thank you for the great work that you continue to do for our country. I am deeply appreciative of each and every Kenyan who is adhering to the laid down guidelines and protocol, who is abiding with the current nationwide curfew. We appreciate those practicing physical and social distancing, all those Kenyans from across this great land who are facilitating our efforts to get ahead of the curve, those that are making the necessary sacrifices today so that we can ensure a brighter future. To all of you, in millions, we appreciate your understanding, your commitment, and your love for your country and your fellow citizens. So, fellow Kenyans, as we emerge from the peak of this health threat, because it shall peak and it shall come to an end, we will again together need to be united in order to rebuild our economy, which has really been hurt by this virus, and also to face the other major challenges that we have as a people. This extraordinary health challenge calls on us Kenyans to tap into our creativity, which is great amongst our people. And we want to continue to tap into that. I want to take this opportunity to also laud all our county governments who have also played their role in waiving local fees for trade in food items. And accordingly, I wish to applaud in particular the county government of Nakuru, who offered Afuraha Stadium, for example, as an open-air market in line with the social distancing guidelines. And similarly, I want to encourage our traders and our farmers in fresh produce and all other produce to continue with their agricultural activities so as to ensure continued supply of farm produce to our markets. Such farm produce that embodies the diversity of Kenya, from our rice to our beans, to our maize, our potatoes, our cabbages, and even our miraa farmers, our tomato farmers, our banana farmers. To all those in authority, be of assistance and help these farmers be able to continue and sell their wares to our people. Let them be able to continue their legal trade within the boundaries of the protocols that have been set out by the Ministry of Health. Fellow Kenyans, now more than ever before, I am pleased to see Kenyans stepping up for each other in all our communities. At the national level, I last week established the COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund. And we are very happy to see the manner that Kenyans from all walks of life have responded and are contributing to help their brothers and sisters in need. But I also want to state that even as we confront the current health challenge, our war on corruption continues to bear fruit. Indeed, over the last year, our state agencies charged with this national endeavor were able to make significant recoveries of illegal gotten wealth. And in that regard, as we scale up our interventions against the current health pandemic, I have today directed the National Treasury to utilize 2 billion shillings of already recovered proceeds from corrupt practices, and these funds to be utilized to support the most vulnerable members of our society, especially the needy in our urban areas. Our fight against corruption continues, and as I promised you, all the gains that we make in this war will be put back to supporting Kenyans and helping Kenyans live a proper life. I also want at this stage to also acknowledge all the state and public officers who have followed my lead and taken voluntary pay cuts in order to support our fight against coronavirus. In sharing the heavy burden of the current pandemic, which has led to lost opportunities, I applaud the members of our society who have risen to the call to support and share in the bounty of their blessings with their fellow countrymen, helping many cope with the fears weighing on their minds to provide a decent living for their families. I note with particular appreciation those property owners who have reduced or agreed to work terms for the monthly rent in order to help provide a roof over the heads of our more vulnerable brothers and sisters. And in that regard, I wish to urge all others to emulate this great example and not put our people in even more vulnerable situations as we face this current pandemic. This is truly a time for compassion. This is truly a time for understanding. Fellow Kenyans, I want to assure you that every shilling we save in salaries and allowances is one that we shall use towards face masks, medical supplies, specialized equipment to support the most vulnerable members in our society through the provision of water and food items, and in support of any other initiatives needed by our nation in this war. To that end, I have also directed that the Nairobi Metropolitan Service to not only continue, but to expand their provision of free water to all our informal settlements in Nairobi County. In that regard, I also direct the National Treasury to appropriate all domestic and international travel budgets for all state agencies within the executive, the judiciary, the legislature, and the county governments, and to reallocate these resources to combating COVID-19. Fellow Kenyans, last week, and in order to protect jobs for our people and to provide some certainty for both employees and their employers, I want to once again today reiterate the measures that we have undertaken to offer relief and increase disposable income to the people of Kenya. I did state that we shall have 100% tax relief for all persons earning gross monthly income of up to Kenya shillings 24,000. We have also reduced the top income tax rate, or as we call it, pay as you earn, from 30 to 25%. The reduction of the resident income tax, or our corporation tax, from 30 to 25%. The reduction of VAT from 16 to 14%, all effective 1st of April 2020. The reduction of turnover tax from the current 3% to 1% for all our micro, small, and medium enterprises. The appropriation of an additional 10 billion shillings to our elderly, orphans, and other vulnerable members of our society through cash transfers by the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection to cushion them from the adverse economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, fellow Kenyans, your government must continue to provide critical public services. And in order for us to do so, even as we provide relief to those who are most vulnerable, we must, at this time, be patriotic and pay our taxes. I therefore encourage all of us to honor our obligations so as to safeguard and guarantee the delivery of the public good. I want to thank you all for being a beacon of hope and for being steadfast soldiers in our nation's war against the COVID-19 pandemic. Even in the circumstances, this fight, I believe, will not dampen our spirits. It will not dampen the spirits of the Kenyan people. And we together will creatively deploy our talents in all fronts to conquer the current challenge, even as we collectively fashion the future destiny of our country. As a government, we shall continue to take the necessary measures to cushion Kenyans against the impact of the current pandemic. In this regard, we have said that we will continue to remain focused on the economy. And as many of you will recall, in January, I did state that there were a number of initiatives that the government would take, all aimed at boosting our economy, little knowing that a few months later we would be faced by a challenge of this magnitude. But all the same, government continues to work. And one of the pledges that we did make in January is beginning to pay dividends. And I want today to announce that as a beginning of many firsts of our agenda to empower our youth and to foster sustainable livelihoods, which is gaining momentum, today, as promised in January, our local artists will begin drawing higher royalties. I am pleased to announce that the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, in collaboration with the Kenya Copyright Board, the Collective Management Organization, have established the framework I asked them to do in January to ensure full transparency for artists' earnings. Last year, the combined payments made out to our local artists for the year did not exceed, was it? 200 million Kenya shillings. As a result of the initiative that my government has taken, starting this month, all our local artists will be earning a total of Kenya shillings 200 million per month that will be paid to musicians through the system and other platforms that we have developed. This shall translate this year to over Kenya shillings 2 billion going into the pockets of our young artists and young Kenyans. These payments will begin this week in line with the pledge that I made in January. I also further direct the Ministry of Sports, Culture and Heritage to avail an additional support of Kenya shillings 100 million from the Sports Fund to our artists, actors, and musicians during the period of the COVID-19 pandemic so that they may continue to entertain their fellow brothers and sisters through TV, radio, and the internet. So, fellow Kenyans, I conclude by once again thanking each and every one of you, asking for your understanding, calling on your collaboration as we continue to face the challenges ahead of us, assuring you that as a government, we will both do everything we can to combat this virus and to reduce the health impacts on our society, while at the same time working together and working extra hard to ensure that as a country we shall overcome the very difficult social and economic impact that will be caused as a result of this virus. Fellow Kenyans, let us walk together, let us stand together. Let us follow the protocols laid out, let us save lives, let us protect each other, and I believe by so doing, and through the will of God, we shall succeed. I thank you all. May God bless you all, and may God bless the Republic of Kenya. Thank you.
All right, that is perhaps one of the longest press conferences President Uhuru Kenyatta has had in the recent past. It's a very important press conference because indeed it outlines new measures that have been put in place by the president, invoking the National Security Council, and you could see all of those people who were standing there with the president. So this is one of the announcements that is very important today, because already on social media we see a lot of questions that are being asked, and we like to make this clarification because the president says from today 7 p.m. You cannot, Nairobi is under the containment, which I will equate to lockdown just for the purpose of making it clear for you. So what the president is saying is 80% of the virus has been detected in Nairobi. So basically what the president is saying, if you're a resident of Nairobi tonight, and he's given the areas that you, perhaps the boundaries, that is Kiambu, Chania, Bridge, Rironi, Ndenderu, Kiambu. When you go the other side of Mombasa, you have Machakos, you have Katani. When you go to Kajiado, you have Kitengela, Kiserian, and Ongata Rongai. So what the president is saying, if I live in Nairobi currently, and for the purpose of demonstration, I will use Nation Center and perhaps Stanley, because that's where you might know in town. So if those are two locations, this is Nairobi and the Stanley is Limuru, I cannot from 7 p.m. travel across. This is the reason why they're doing this. The elderly are supposed to be protected. The people in the village are supposed to be protected. The areas that have not been mentioned to have this virus are supposed to be protected. This is not going to happen if they still encourage movement. That means there will be no public transport or private transport or even motorcycle or a bicycle that will leave Nairobi from 7 p.m. tonight to go outside the location and the geographical location that we have been given. And I bet we're going to have a story for you at 7 and at 9 to exactly tell you these areas that you cannot move. And in Kajiado also, you cannot leave those areas starting from 7 p.m. tonight, and it's been designated under the Nairobi Metropolitan. If you go to Kilifi, you go to Kwale, you go to Mombasa, they have been given 2 days to put their house in order, and starting the 9th until the 29th, they will not be allowed, and until the 30th, they will not be allowed to leave those areas for a period of 21 days. Now, these measures will go until the 27th of this month. So we Nairobians, we will not be able to move out of Nairobi, and basically what the government is doing is to contain this virus within Nairobi so that they can address it effectively. Because the other thing the president said is stretching the health facilities. If there's an overblown number in the number of infections, so to say, there will not be health facilities will not be able to handle it. So it's important that it's contained here, it's not taken out, so that the number of areas, I think there are 7, but it's basically dwelt on 5, if I'm not wrong. That is Kilifi, Kwale, Mombasa, Kajiado. Kajiado was not mentioned, it was mentioned in the other reports, but you cannot leave any of these areas that have reported the virus. So basically, all these measures that have been made today, it's not about the lockdown that InfoTrack was mentioned. If I'm not wrong, it was InfoTrack that was mentioning 7 out of every 10 Kenyans are calling for a lockdown. So basically, this is the additional measure the president has put in place together with the National Security Council to ensure that Kenya contains this virus. And it's extraordinary time, so extraordinary measures have to be applied. And it's just good if everyone complies. And right at the top, mentioning that today additional 16 cases have been reported. Our numbers standing at 158 tonight. So basically, basically we'll have a breakdown of all these stories for you. Most of those questions that you're asking, where you can go, whether you can go out of your house, whether you can still come to your workplace under essential services, if you can move within Nairobi. Yes, you can move, but remember the other rules that were put in place earlier. The curfew time of 7 p.m. it still stands. 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. they still stand. Those ones have not been compromised. And of course, he's asking everyone to cooperate, be your brother's keeper, and lauding those measures that have been taken by several governments and individuals to ensure that they cushion you and other people like us, to ensure that we're comfortable. So we have a lot. It's about 40 minutes of a press conference. We have a lot to break down for you, but basically you shouldn't panic. Food will still be supplied under essential services. Supermarkets will be open, markets will be open, but just you from Nairobi moving, or from Kwale, from Kilifi, or from Mombasa, you'll not just be able to live where you are, just to ensure that this virus is contained within those areas and it's addressed effectively. So look out for our broadcast later on. 4 p.m. is coming up, and obviously NTV Journey and NTV Tonight, we're going to break this down properly for you and make all those clarifications that you're asking. In the meantime, you can ask the questions on our Twitter handle. We'll try and sample some of them at 9 p.m. Thank you for watching, and straight in about 5-6 minutes, we'll have another broadcast. So stay with us, because we surely will give you all the information you need.
Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. Dentists recommend Sensodyne to their patients. It's able to get inside the tooth and calm the nerve of the tooth down, and the proof's in the results. It works.
Since late last year, the coronavirus COVID-19 has emerged as a serious healthcare threat. This is an infection that has gone global and no one has been spared. The government, through the Ministry of Health, has put in measures to keep Kenyans safe against COVID-19, which is currently rampant around the world, with new confirmed infections and death cases daily. Such sanitization and screening of visitors at this border post and across every entry point in the country is very vital in preventing the spread of the disease in the country.
I'm very happy about the screenings that are going on in Tanzania and Kenya. I think it's very proactive that you're thinking about stopping it at the border so that it does not spread.
It is scary that a single cough here can lead to an outbreak of epidemic. In order to prevent that, the government has instituted measures to keep Kenyans safe.
The facility has all the equipment you need from handling a basic patient up to ICU setting.
However, you also have a role to play in preventing spread of infections.
Is the key. Citizen responsibility is the key. Initially, the success of this. Let's all do and these measures what we have to do. Let's all do, and this is how we are going to defeat this disease. And this is how we are going to defeat this.
Hygiene. It's just our general hygiene, and that now means at workplaces, and that now means ensure that our work surfaces are ensure that our work surfaces are clean.
Every time na sanitation ya mikono, lazima ni every time na bono matatu, lazima ni.
We have faced many severe challenges as a nation, and we have always found a way to rise above them. COVID-19 is no different, and will overcome the pandemic. Komesha corona, stop coronavirus. Zingatia maagizo, follow all directives from the Ministry of Health. Nawa mikono jinsi inavyostahili.
Life is like those uphill rides that you are so good at. All of us face that opposition.
So have you ever had one of those experiences where God gives you a blatant message?
God doesn't go around talking to people. I've never seen a miracle.
God, please
tell me what's wrong with my son.
He wants to heal you. Trust and believe. Trust and believe.
Heaviness and a burning inside. It could be heartburn.
Indigestion and heartburn? Eno gets to work in 6 seconds and works on the 6 symptoms of heartburn so you can keep living life non-stop. Eno, fight heartburn and indigestion fast.
There's no debate. Home is best. If you must pay for deliveries, use your NCBA debit card. Stay home. Stay safe.
Nyaja wa Kenya. Hii ni public service announcement kuhusu coronavirus.
The Ministry of Health advises all returnees from abroad to self-quarantine for at least 14 days, whether they feel well